them, there's a way to calibrate them. And you have to unscrew this part right here and very slightly adjust it and tighten it back up. And that controls what you're going to get. So my calibration on these that I have to use, and these are really only good from probably a hardness of 20 to 100. That's the D durometer. That's what it's made for. It's not made for 200. So a piece of steel is going to be too hard.
Okay.
So I don't know what they use to actually calibrate them. You'd have to send them in. But I calibrate them based on known equipment I've had with certain hardnesses that I've kept track of. So, for example, my Dick Weber 5-star ball tests out at 86. It still tests out at 86 with this.
Ah, okay.
So
you can just take it, and if it says 86 on that, you know that it's reading.
I know it's, and then I have a gray angle back there that I test. I have a blue dot that tests like 89.
Perfect.
So, and that's a new ball sitting out there. So I will always go out and test a few of those balls just to make sure I'm good.
Okay.
Because if you don't do that, you could be off.
And they might say, okay, this isn't officially calibrated by the company according to the standards, but you know the readings are fairly legitimate. I mean, that's what's important. They might. In
other words, I will be the first to admit that I could be off by a point.
Okay, starting back up. We'll have 2 spots. Okay, so as continuing then we know when you compare these to the balls you have that you know, like Blue Dot is classic Dick Weber 5-star. You know what those hardness are. They don't change. They've been the same for years.
I'm not saying you can't be a point off.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to be that. You just can't be that accurate no matter what. But the person doing it could be off too. Now, I can do these pretty good, but you really have to test a ball legally, you really need 10 punches on the ball.
Yep,
now,
that's
if
the rule.
I punch a ball, when we tested balls in the PBA, we'd punch them about, if the first 2 punches came out fine, we didn't test them again. If it was more than that, if it was low, then we'd start hitting them in different places. Now, I will tell you, it's pretty hard to vary more than 1 point on a ball going all the way around a ball. But you will vary. The color of the material makes a difference. As I said previous, probably a material that has oil soaked in it will make a little bit of a difference. That needle will slip a little bit, possibly. And the temperature is big. All right, Pumpkin, you just got in the film.
Little kitty. Kitty got on the Facebook.
So what I did is I took, just for sake of testing, because these balls are sitting all over the room and the heat is in different areas, I put these 3 balls out here this morning, so at least they'd all be in the same spot.
Yep.
And
mine were in my house before I threw them in the warm car.
Yep.
And drove over here, so they're all room temperature.
Yep. And I think 73 is the official. That's what D durometer says to use for temperature. It's not 73 in here.
Yeah.
I set the temperature at 70, and in this room it's going to be a little cooler.
Yeah, and I think the rule is 70 to 77 degrees for an official reading.
I don't think you're going to vary by much, but I do know that if you cool these balls down to 65, they will read higher. Yeah.
Mine would be definitely over 70. That's what my house is set at. So they're
and it depends where they are. If I have balls stored closer to a window, they're going to be cooler. I mean, you're going to have those variations. So these 2 durometers are calibrated pretty close. I feel that this one reads about a half a point high. But the thing about these that I had to do is the face shield, which is plastic. This is supposed to lower your guide bar, and it doesn't. So on both of these durometers, I manually just have to very carefully pull that down like that.
Okay.
because that leaves it on the mark. Otherwise, you have to watch really quick where it goes.
Oh, okay.
And this pushes it and stops it.
Okay.
So on each of these, I've done that. I've got a case up there. I used to have another durometer somewhere too, without a stand. I don't know where it is, but I literally have to just lower those. So,
because that's where you're supposed to start from. Or?
Well, anywhere below what you're going to be.
Okay.
This morning I punched a Sure D out there, and it was 59. So it was like a marshmallow.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Now,
so,
I was going over some stuff today, so it's on here and people can hear it. In 2020, USBC did their tests at the US Open, and the rule was 72 for the hardness then.
Correct.
But they allowed a durometer variance, they called it. So anything that was at least 68 passed. And there were 100, and if I recall, it's in my stories, there's 100 and some balls out of 300 or so that were between 72 and 68, and only 2 ended up failing. One of them was the Jacob Buttriff's was 67.8, a purple hammer. That failed. Now they've raised it to 73,
Correct.
The new rule, and I think the durometer variance is 70. And for people that were thinking, and I saw some Facebook chatter on that, I've tried to correct it, and Twitter chatter, that the PBA has a different rule. Well, that's not true.
Not anymore.
No, they're going with the 73, but when you saying that they only had to be above 70 in their pre-TV tests, those are field tests because they're out wherever the tournament was. So 70 is what they were, and that's the USBC rule. So when we do these here today, technically, if they're above 70, they would be legal, but we're hoping that they're above 73.
They'll all be above 70.
Yeah.
Back when we tested balls for the PBA, when I helped out with that, if it was under, and PBA number was 75 at
there was and there was no variance then.
No, and there shouldn't. Honestly, there shouldn't be. A difference of 5 points in the softness of the ball is huge for that footprint of that ball. I mean, Ron Hicklin just wrote a nice little article on that. Tremendous what the footprint does. So if you want a ball to not hook, you have that hard plastic with that very, very small footprint, about the thickness of a knife blade. And if you want something to grab more, that compression on a softer ball is huge. So why the PBA is making it, allowing that, I don't know.
Well, that's the USBC rule.
Or even USBC. That makes absolutely no sense. Yeah. Now, are these things going to vary by that much? No. I'll guarantee you, on any given ball, with almost any operator that has 5 minutes of training, you're not going to vary this thing by more than a point. Yeah. It's just, they're not hard to do. Yeah. You can do them. I'll do them. You can do them. You're going to get the same numbers I'm going to get. It's not hard, and there's just not that much variance. I think that the variance that they're talking about is that the variance of this durometer as opposed to one that's fully set up in an apparatus at USBC that the company that made the durometers calibrated. I think that's where it comes from. Go ahead if you want. Rob Bailey's Pro Shop. I'm open, but pretty busy. Yeah, you can drop it off. I'm here. Yep. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Yep. Paul, are you good waiting a little bit? Oh, okay. Yeah, if you want to. No, that's fine. It's got to be over to. That 6 point variance, or that's way too much. I mean, they've got, that's never, that's not good. I don't know, I'm not the rules writer for USBC by any means, and I know when they did the motive thing, they were pretty specific on the rules, and they said if you were over 0.6% of the balls, that was it. And in fact, I printed this out for you. You can use that as at your discretion, but that's what they wrote, and which to me doesn't make any sense with what they're doing now. The balls either have to be USBC legal or not legal, one or the other. They can't have them, okay, they're legal here, but they're not legal here. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So now, as far as How hard are they really, or how soft are they really? This test is probably as reliable or unreliable as the swing scale they used for the weight blocks. I mean, you're going to have some variation. I don't care what you do. If that swing scale thing is not in a controlled environment with sides on it, if that door opens and shuts, you could change that swing scale. This, you have temperature and you have human error. So what they're trying to do is make up for the human error with that. But the big long-handled ones that they use on there, all that does is control how you put it in. But I can put these in and do different pressures on them. It's really hard to hit it hard enough to raise it a point. You know what I'm saying?
With the stand thing you have there?
Yeah, with the stand.
Because I know back in the day, I couldn't find my handheld one. I've got it somewhere buried in the basement. I just couldn't find it and have time to go looking. But I know you could, with the handhelds where you're tilting them and all that, you can make changes.
Yep, you can. Yeah, and they're too variable. They really are. If you don't have a stand, you can mess with it, but it might give you an idea. It'll give you an idea whether the ball is 60 or 70 or 65 or 70, but it's not going to give you a point difference.
Well, do you want to shoot some of these blank ones you have, and then we can do some of mine?
These. Let's just...
Or do you want me to set here so we can see the durometer going?
I'll go over here.
Okay.
This is an altered reality. Yeah, you better go on this side because I want to see kind of where it stops. And
this is an undrilled altered reality, which is now one of the 6 storm balls that we're not allowed to throw in the national tournaments. So
I did have one of these in here that would not test above 71. This one is a little better. I think, let's just see what we got. Well, 70, a little shy of 72.
Okay.
Let's test the red material over here.
Yeah, that's one of the fascinating things I've learned is that the colors do make a difference. Different colors change a little different.
72, maybe a hair over 72.
Yeah, just shy, but right between 72 and 73.
Let's go into this black stuff here. There, 73 in the black.
Yep, 73.
Hey, the black's good. Just make them all black.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah. Well, and makes sense. I remember years ago when the AMF, now that's barely 72. That's in the black also. Remember years ago when AMF came out with that white ball?
Yep.
And that was soft. And anything made out of a white material was very soft.
Huh.
It softened up the mix.
Okay.
So now let's do the phase 4 here.
So technically then if we were, go ahead, you can do it, but I'll talk. Technically if we were talking about that being a field test, the way I understand the rule, that ball would pass.
Yeah.
Because it's above 70, even though it's a little bit under 73.
Yeah, but
it wouldn't if you were getting those readings at the USBC on an undrilled ball that Storm or a company sent to them, it wouldn't pass. So that's
right. This averaged less than 72. Right. So you got to have a little variance, I'm sure. All right, here's the phase 4. We're right in the purple here. A little less than 71.
Okay.
Here's a little more silver here. A little less than 72. Here's the gold.
$71.
71. And just for the heck of it, let's try a different durometer. See, this durometer reads a little higher. I know it does. My intent was to calibrate this exactly like that, but who knows which one is right.
Yeah.
So that one's a little low.
So just so everybody understands, then this is showing how it's not perfectly scientific like this.
No, it's not going to be. It's not going to be that scientific. I mean, they got to have a rule. I understand, but
This is why we're so
71.
Yeah, this is why we're so interested to hear the data from USBC.
Yep. Now here's
and what they're getting in their readings.
And that was one of the
Storm.
things, and I hope they do this better with Storm than they did with Motive, because my understanding is they did not give them the info till they were already condemned them.
Yeah.
And they found out it was just the smaller balls. Now, I don't think there was, I don't know. I don't have the data.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't give me the data. Let's try this. This is a Mythic Jackal. Okay, that's 74.
Okay.
That's 73 and a half.
So just legal.
Yep. Every company is going to want to make their balls as soft as possible.
Black, okay.
I think the softer over time on the urethane has more to do with oil in the cover than anything.
Okay.
I don't think they get softer over time. I think those balls were made soft, or whatever chemicals they used to make them, they knew it was going to soften up one or the other. I mean, think about it. I would not accuse any company of doing anything, because they're in there to make money, but they want the best ball performance. And you don't know. You could possibly have a resin that would get a little softer after you made it, and you might not know it, or you might. Who knows?
But in general, resin balls, they lose plasticizer, they get more brittle, and they get harder over time. Have you found that?
I haven't. I've tested a lot of my old ones, and I haven't seen any difference.
Okay.
Really, in hardness. I mean,
they're not softer though.
No, they're not soft.
Yeah, but like you said, you've got some purple hammers here for the old ones.
I did.
68-ish.
Yeah, I did. I don't have any here right now.
Okay, but the newer ones, you're not finding any issues on.
Just checked a newer one the other day.
How about Motive Storm brand urethanes? What have you found with those?
Well, let's.
I've got an old urethane here from Storm.
Here's a new Motive urethane.
Okay.
I just had a pitch black in here the other day. I might still have it. Let's check this one. Like I said, it would definitely be to any company's best interest to make them as soft as you legally could. Now that's 77.
Okay.
It's more or less a rock.
Yeah.
In other words, they could be making that a little softer.
But
that's really a consistent 77.
Yeah. They probably want to make sure they're not causing any problems.
Yeah.
Now, I've got some of my equipment here. I've got, let's see here. Open these back up. Sorry for the jerkiness. I've got a Trend 2, a UFO Alert. We might want to do an old, here's a classic, a hot cell. One of Storm urethane, an old one. We'll see where this is now after years of use. And you can see, I believe this is a 15-pounder, and it's my old grip. So it's really old. I would say, I mean, I got this when it first came out. So whatever year it was that's 16?
Here's the serial number.
Yeah. Should be able to tell.
Yep.
The first
17.
It was a 2017. So this is the same vintage as the controversial 6s and 7s purple hammers. So
now this ball is
a little chilly.
Cooler.
This one was in my basement. I had to go dig it out. So it's.
I would expect this to read at least a point or two higher.
Right. I forgot that I didn't get this up. The other ones were upstairs. This was in the basement today.
77 almost.
So even if you gave it like 2 points from being cold,
you're
it's
still 75. Right. Oh, there's a 75.
There's a 75.
75 and a half.
Now, I had one person tell me, take a urethane ball and hit the same spot in the track, but like 3 or 4 times.
That's just what I was going to do, because the track is where the oil picks up.
Yeah.
So, here we go. Oh, your tracks are over here, right, Jeff?
Yeah, it is. Actually, it's farther down than it used to be.
Yeah, I know.
It used to be next to the fingers and thumb, but that was many years ago.
Doesn't matter if you make it work. That's 76. It's not going to change.
Does it change if someone told me hit the same spot over and over? Does that change anything?
You can't put it in the same hole.
Because it's going in the same hole. Yeah. So
that would be totally bogus.
Maybe they just meant in the same area. But
no.
But this one is clearly not an issue.
No, 76.
Okay.
Easy.
And that's a 6-year-old, 5-year-old ball. All right. Well,
I doubt they made it harder than that.
Right. Oops. And here we have a new one. Just got it. This was drilled for me an altered reality drilled last weekend. I got it, picked it up Monday, and Monday night all heck broke loose. So I have not even...
If you take a white area on a ball, I don't know if you can see those marks.
Yep. Yeah, you already did that with your fingernail.
I just made marks with my fingernail on there.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that on balls where they have a real white streak. If it's like that underneath, I don't know, but I'm gonna say this is gonna be pretty soft. If you can fingernail a ball, it's gonna be 70. All right, 71.
71. And you can see this ball doesn't have tape in it yet, doesn't have grips. It's never gone down a lane. It's just been drilled.
73.
Okay. Well, outside the white spot, that would be legal.
That helped.
Even in a factory, that'd be legal.
Well, 72. 72.
72.
Pretty much a 72 ball.
So probably if you use that one, it's a 73 ball.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This one is definitely going to read higher. I could have calibrated this one the same. I just left it. Yep, 73.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so this would be a ball that if you were reading this at a factory or at USBC, they would say no good. But if it was a field test, the way I understand the rule, it would be legal because it's above 70.
Well, yeah. But according to the USBC rules, if they say it has to be 73 and they're testing it, they would only allow 0.6% to be under that.
It would only be legal if it was like the field test. Well, when they did the field tests, they were doing them at the U.S. Open, but they were the field tests because they were in Lincoln, Nebraska, and that's where they let it be 68.
Now, is it possible that when they wanted to field test Belmo's balls, that they had those curtains there because they didn't want any air blowing on there and they wanted the heat the same? But then they should have told them.
Right, and that's, just be trans, that's,
I think, said, here's why we're doing that.
I am not someone who's saying that the USBC's assertions are wrong. I'm saying, please show us the data, be transparent, and explain what's going on. That's what everyone in bowling wants.
73. Okay,
this is a Roto Grip Ufo alert. This ball is pretty old. I got it when it first came out, so it's gone down the lane for dozens of games. It was approved last summer, July, I think. 21, yeah, it's a 21 ball.
21.
Yep. And it's one of the ones that's not legal anymore according to, or for national tournaments. It's not revoked, but not legal for the national tournaments. It's one of the 6 storm balls. That's just shy of 73.
Pretty much a 73 ball, I'd say. I really tried to press down hard. I got 74.
Okay.
Now I'll go kind of in the same spot and just try to press normal, just to show you that you can get it to go a little higher. 73, a little over 73. We used to really try to jump on them when you had somebody in the PVA that was real close. You could gain maybe half a point. So it's not much, but you can, how you do it.
You're not going to change it 10 points.
No, you might change it a half a point, maybe.
Okay.
You'd have to work to change it a point.
And here's one of my favorite balls for certain conditions, especially house shots.
Now, when I tested, when I was asked to test my balls, I had already had them tested. I never had a Trend 2 in here that tested too soft.
Really?
I will say the Zen is very soft. I don't get that over 72, but I've never had a Trend that's tested less than 74.
And the Zen they made no issue of.
No. So this will be interesting. We'll try yours.
Yeah, I don't perceive this ball as being a large hooking ball. It's
okay. It's over 73.
Yeah, it's just shy, right between 73 and 74. I mean, I have never perceived this ball.
It's a high RG ball.
It's a flippy one.
Why would they want the advantage of having it softer?
Yeah, you want it to skid and flip.
Okay, there's a 74.
74.
And that's pretty much what I got on these 74s, 75s. So 74. I'm going to say this ball is a pretty solid 74 no matter where you... Let's put it in the pink.
And so if the pink here is lighter or orange or whatever that is, that's going to be a little softer 75. Maybe? No, that's 75.
Yep. Wow. See, I've never had one of these too soft. I'm just being honest. I don't... I've checked everything, and that one really surprised me. when they came up with that.
So basically all we've seen so far is that the altered reality might be a little bit of an issue, and then maybe the phase 4 on your blank one. Now here's my used phase 4.
Okay.
This is a ball I was frankly flabbergasted when they said this thing was soft, because to me this ball is designed as a go long, skid, and move sharp, and that's what it does for me, and making it too soft seems to go against the grain of what you would want it to do.
Well,
so
I think all the ones I tested in here were soft, I have to admit.
okay, yeah, well, we just saw the blank one.
Oh, that's almost 74.
Huh.
Now, this is a slightly cooler. I'm not saying it's enough to make a point difference, but there's a 73.
Okay. Well, it was upstairs in my house. We keep the heat at either 68 or 69 in the winter. There's
73.
So if maybe it's
74, just 3.5. Nothing
okay.
below 73.
Yeah, I mean, that would pass even in a factory.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, so that's interesting that that's that much different than your blank one here.
Yeah, well, now consider this, and not to, I'll guarantee every ball that they sent in had a pass when they sent in their 24 balls.
Right, for the original test to get it approved.
They don't make 24 balls, they make a huge batch.
Yeah.
If anything would happen with the batch, I can't imagine it wouldn't be too hard to change the hardness on a batch, whether on purpose or by accident.
Or by accident, chemical,
yeah,
bad supply,
either way.
Which has been a lot of the speculation
bad supply
out there.
Could be a big thing.
Yeah, in the COVID era and pandemic
Yep.
problems. Now, I've had it also put to me that staff guys might have more balls that are legal because we may have got early ones,
Yep.
especially tour guys, early
Yep.
ones that were part of the batches sent to get approval.
Right.
And if there was some sort of manufacturing issue or chemical supplier issue that caused whatever's going on, the staff guys wouldn't see that because they got the first balls.
I hate to say it, the last 5 years, 6 years, help has been a big problem with all these companies. Mm-hmm. They can't get good help. And I know if you have one employee that's doing something, let's just say, for example, in Motive's case, where the only balls that tested too high, it's like a race car. If you took 50 pounds off that race car, it would be illegal. You'd have too much power for the engine. And that's what happens if the ball's just slightly smaller, still legal size, but smaller. With that same engine in it, that same weight block, it's going to go over.
Yeah, it changes their ratios and all that stuff.
Let's just say you got some employees that are regrinding the balls or doing things, or they're, now you can have a health problem. They could have it too.
Which is what happened to Ebonite at the 6s and 7s Purple Hammers. It was a completely unintentional thing.
Yeah, it doesn't have to, and I don't know if, we're not the USBC, so we don't determine. I don't know if they consider intentional or non-intentional. I have no idea. Yeah. All I know is, in general, bowling ball companies do a lot for everybody, and if we hurt bowling ball companies, we're hurting everybody. We're hurting pro shops. We're hurting bowlers. We're hurting the PBA. We're hurting everything. So I think the USBC needs to handle it different, in my opinion, whether it was with Motive or this, and get on top of these things early and say, okay, we got to do something here, instead of coming at them and saying, hey, you got a problem. And then all of a sudden a whole bunch of balls are no good. Because what's going to happen in my shop, because these aren't allowed in, about 10 USBC tournaments, my customers they're gonna trade them. They're gonna get something else,
because you have a lot of serious bowlers among your customers that go to the Open Championships.
They go to a lot of stuff, but the average bowler is gonna, now the 130 average bowler is gonna care less.
Yep.
But the 200 average bowlers, 190 average bowlers, they're not going to want a ball that's deemed to be only good here and not good here. So that's going to be a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
I know my supplier right now has probably over 2,000 balls in stock that they're going to have to return. So now the shipping on this stuff. Just the fact that I had to ship these Spectrums back, the new ones, cost a lot of money to ship those back.
Sure.
So this is not a cheap deal for any company when something like this happens.
Yeah, obviously.
And as a consumer, the price is going to go up. It has to. If it costs your company money, the price is going to go up. Doesn't matter. And you know how people are. They think if the price goes up, oh yeah, now the pro shop's raising their price, this and that, and it's not good all the way around.
And for everybody, this is the Spectre. This is the ball that is banned completely from all competition. This was the one from earlier this month where USBC said 98.6%, I believe, are projected to be too soft based on their tests, even though they had approved it. So,
and I will tell you, I've tested these. They don't test out any different than the other ones we've tested. I'm just telling you. So I don't know what this one's going to test. All mine are sent back right now, but let's find out. 74.
How interesting.
I'm just saying.
Again, mine was probably one of the earliest or original batches.
Okay, a little over 73.
Okay, because I, of course, am a staffer. Got mine in the original order.
73 and a half. Okay. You got your little X on there because you throw it out your thumb. That's good.
That's my PAP.
I know. 73 and a half. This ball's pretty much 73 and a half. It's no different than all the other balls we tested.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I noticed that right away. Pretty much if I had everything up to temperature like these, they were testing 72, 73. And all of those were.
Yep.
Today I'm getting maybe another point on them. It's cool out today.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep.
I know it's. I don't have a thermometer sitting right here, but if I was to put one here, I'd say we'd probably be about 69 degrees, something like that.
And other than the hot cell, all my balls were sitting in our dining room, which is the bowling ball room at our house, closest to the garage. Our house is 68, 69 degrees. So
you're talking at the very most. I mean, so the interesting thing to me was not the fact that the spectrum was necessarily 72 or below 73. It was that every ball I tested was that way.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how they. I have no idea.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
It's interesting. I mean, none of these balls have ever been hit with a durometer anywhere, and I was very curious to see. Now, the only one that really is a bit concerning was that Altered Reality had maybe was a 71, 72.
Probably a 72 average.
Yeah, but yet if say that was a ball I was checking in after making a TV show on the PBA when they were doing the hardness test, that would pass.
Well, I don't think it would be.
And it would pass if you were doing a test right here, right now for a tournament and they were following the field test rule and they were accepting your durometer, those would all pass.
I know what they did in the old days. If we had a ball that didn't pass, they put it in a nice cool corner for an hour.
Mine,
the hardness come up.
Well, that was the rule for PBA. You were allowed to put it overnight, in fact.
Yeah.
And they would test in the morning after, cashing or whatever. And I can remember occasionally taking like a yellow dot and putting it by the air conditioner in the hotel room or whatever on the one or two occasions where there was an issue. One was actually a roommate of mine from a tournament in maybe 85 or something. And it was it was borderline just a little too soft. And, it was an older bleeder.
No, I have trouble having an opinion because I like all the companies. Like I said, Motive and Storm are my two big companies here. 900 Global and Roto Grip in there too. And the last thing we want is unhappy customers with anything. It doesn't matter. The deal with Motive cost them millions. And I mean, the USBC could break companies.
Yeah, well, this is going to cost. The Christmas are going to pay out a lot of money here.
It's going to be, I'll guarantee you, many millions.
Yeah. And
I wish the USBC would have a better way of handling it. They could say, okay, they could do a lot of things. They could say, all right, we're going to get through this USBC. You can use these balls. After that, we've got to do something. They could say, okay, we're going to just keep making them, but we're going to test your batches again. And there's going to be a few soft ones out there. They're not going to last forever anyhow.
Right.
So there could be a lot of things. Maybe they could do better. I don't know.
My big assertion has been, I've written this over and over and over again. I wrote this in 2020. We don't have any modern science with Earl at the training center that defines what a point of hardness or 5 points of hardness or however X amount of hardness means in terms of ball motion. They haven't done any tests to my knowledge. No data has been released to my knowledge that shows Earl throwing, like let's say they had a manufacturer make them 10 urethane balls of 62, 65, 68, 71, 74, 77,
right.
80.
That would be nice.
Yes, and do resin that way, do urethane that way, maybe one from each company. You make us these balls at this level. We're going to throw them with Earl on a flat pattern or whatever you choose, and we're going to Spectre or whatever it is, the how much difference, and decide what should the number be. We're using a number made in 1970 whatever.
Right. So mid-70s.
Yeah, mid-70s. Yeah.
And just for a note on that, just so you know what softness does to a ball. Back in 1975, I and my buddy soaked a white dot just to try it. I showed up on league with that ball. I mean, you're talking a white dot on oil where I'm playing straight down and in, hooking it more than the other guys, but not like they do today. And all of a sudden I stood 10 boards left and I'm warping the lane.
Yeah.
Well, huge difference.
Yeah. How many points of difference do you think it was?
I think we had that ball down to 60.
Yeah.
So or close to
and
it.
if you've seen Ron's video, Ron Hicklin's video, he had the one where he took down to Purple Hammer, he took to 64, and it hooked huge amount more than the one that was at 72.
I can't say, but it was soft. I mean, I could dig my fingernail in more than this. And just based on what I know, I'm going to say, you know, low 60s.
Yeah.
And of course, the manager of the lanes came up to me and says, hey, he says, I had started with like the first 6. He says, don't throw a 300. We know you're soaking that ball.
So they knew just by how much it was hooking.
Oh, yeah, they could tell.
And those were the days when people...
And we just did it as an experiment, and we didn't soak anymore. We just said, yeah, that really does work.
To see.
So, yeah. Now, the stuff from Hicklin, the footprint, that's huge information, but it has to be applied to a study.
Yeah, that's what we need from USBC, what we need from Earl.
Yep.
You know, you've got this robot that sits there, and let's use it, and let's get some modern-day scientific information, and let's decide maybe the number should be 75, maybe it should be 68. And here's another point that was made to me today, actually by my girlfriend Sue, who's not really a bowler, but she just said, why do you even have a standard? And I go, what do you mean? She goes, well, what if you just let them make them wherever they wanted them and let all the companies do what they want? And wouldn't it self-police at a certain point because you couldn't make them too soft because the ball would hook so much you couldn't control it? So you wouldn't have to worry about doing any testing and... And I said, boy, I hadn't thought of that, but...
No, we actually discussed that very thing. One thing, as the balls get softer, if all your balls were 65 hardness, they'd wear out really fast. So okay. I can't keep up drilling balls now. I can't imagine if they were that soft. People would be replacing balls after 40, 50 games.
Okay.
So that wouldn't work. Now, another interesting note, when they started with urethane, after the LT48, after all those bleeders and all the soft stuff, the urethane could be 76, 75 hardness, no problem, and it still hooked a lot more.
Oh, yeah. I remember when the angle came out and the hammer. That was my day. So
that stuff really, you didn't need it to be that soft at that point. And they made everything over 75. I had a real hard time in the shop here for years finding any ball under 75. Now of course the numbers dropped, and now we're seeing balls under 75. But they always made them to pass the PVA. Right,
because that's what you had to do if you wanted them to be seen on TV and that.
Yeah, and there's no doubt when bleeders were illegal, I went and got a yellow dot back in 1976 and won a 20-line marathon tournament averaging 230. And this thing punched at 72, 73. Wasn't PVA legal, but it definitely was the strongest yellow dot I ever threw, other than a soaker. So there's absolutely no doubt that softness does make a big difference. How much, we don't know on this equipment.
And that's the other point that I was making. Is like, okay, we understand with urethane you can kind of see it, but with resin, isn't the chemicals more important than the plasticizer than the hardness?
Well,
or
I will state this: the softness of the ball is a lot more responsive than a couple 10,000ths on weight block differential.
Mm-hmm.
You could take a weight block differential of, I'm just guessing, let's say 050 and 055, and 2 points of hardness would make a bigger difference in that weight block, in my opinion, from what I see. So they've controlled the weight block. They put a limit on the weight block, and I have some old balls in here that are probably 080.
Yeah,
you know,
SD73 or something like that.
I've got those Phantoms, those
old
Phantoms.
Yep.
I've got a Raid. All these balls are illegal as far as differential and all those numbers go now. RG, the whole works. So the softness of the ball, a couple points of softness does more, in my opinion, than maybe 0.02 or 0.03 or 0.04 of differential.
Wow.
But that's another test they could do, couldn't they? And I think due to cost, they don't do those things. Years ago, they had people in there, including the guy from Milwaukee, Paul Rittenau, where they did a lot of testing. And in fact, he knew a lot of those answers when I'd asked him some of those things. So I don't know if they're doing it now.
Yeah. I find it fascinating because to me it was, with reactives, I never even considered what hardness was. We quit testing in 2000 or so, 2001. Nobody cared because it was all about the chemicals and the plasticizer and the reactiveness. And who cares if it was 75 or 72 or 78? It was all about getting that skid flip and the reactive resin.
And
it wasn't
get obviously slightly less skid flip with softer ball.
Yeah.
So yeah, who knows? I don't have those answers, but I'm sure I've drilled more balls for more good bowlers than anybody around the state probably, and I know what I've seen drilling them, and I know that there's a big difference. The weight hole thing, to be honest with you, it didn't make that much difference. We can do so many things with the bowling ball. What it makes the difference is you just pick a different ball for them if you wanted. If you needed that weight hole, then go with an ASIM. That's all it boils down to. But now that you have no thumbers, we as a bowler cannot go out and throw with our right hand and then turn around and throw at a spare with our left hand. But as a no thumber, you can throw with both hands, no problem, and that's okay. And who's to say you can't throw on the other side? I don't know. Can you do that?
No, you can't.
Okay.
You actually have to approach the lane from the same side.
I've got some...
In scratch competition, you can now. And you can throw right and left-handed in scratch competition now. But not where there's handicap involved.
Some younger kids that can throw a backup hook stronger than they can throw a regular with no thumb or partial thumb.
Yeah. Well,
and they can throw it either way.
Yeah.
And do it. And that's a big advantage. So, plus with the no thumbers, I mean, you got, 550 revs or more.
Yep.
It kind of negates a lot of this stuff. The last thing they want is a 72 hardness ball.
Right. They'd want a little higher.
Yeah. Yeah. They need to get it through the front.
Yeah. It's like the Fosbury flop of bowling. And it's kind of like, okay, this would help equalize for the guy like us, me that has 300 revs would help me maybe catch up to a 500 rev.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. So,
well, thanks for your time, Rob. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff.
Hopefully I can make this video work for folks and they can get a little information. Again, if you're staying through to the end, these are not officially scientific tests that USBC would do. They're not, this isn't a calibrated durometer, but it's a very good one to give us a great indication of where my equipment's at. So
yep, and believe me, I'm not an expert, but I do know, I've run the durometer a lot. I know what I'm doing, and I know I'm going to be close, and take it for what it's worth. And all I would suggest is whatever USBC does is they make the rules the same for all the companies and make it fair for everybody, and follow the guidelines they have set up.
All right.
So,
great. Thanks.
Yep.